Hey everyone, welcome to another Malts and Meeples. It has been quite a while since I've done one of these. That's mainly thanks to the holidays and life being very busy. Let me quickly do what I normally do, which is check to see who is live. Am I live? Last live just now, 20 seconds in. Is video coming across? I don't know. My Wi-Fi is being dumb. So, we're going to assume that it is, and I think I can even go check here. Yeah, we are live, and that looks a little bit better than I thought it might. Excellent. So, just tweeted this out a few seconds ago. We had a few likes on that tweet, so hopefully we have some people joining now for this stream. Today I want to start digging into Tainted Grail by Awaken Realms. So this was my most anticipated game of 2019. I kickstarted it at the end of 2018, and it is a kind of grim Arthurian legend sort of game. So the name of this game, full name of this game, is Tainted Grail: The Fall from Avalon. And we have a massive exploration journal that we're going to be using at different locations and going through with our character and seeing if we can make it through the story, make it through the encounters, make it through the grueling part that the world has to throw at us. And if anybody is on the stream, feel free to say hi in the comments. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about today's beer. So Dragon's Milk is it's a beer that I like a lot. It's a big barrel-aged stout. This is their white stout version of it. Still barrel-aged, but where the regular Dragon's Milk is about 12% ABV, this is about 6. So considerably better for drinking on a stream. But bottoms up. You still get some of the stout flavor to it, but it definitely doesn't have the same depth. Set this aside up here. This is going to make some people so nervous to have an open drink that close to their game, especially a game like this, which will be hard to replace. It is still fulfilling Kickstarter, and while you can probably find a few copies secondhand, there's not much for that yet. So we have our different characters to consider using. We have Arev, a simple farmer with a not-so-simple past. Years ago, as a young mercenary, he helped raise many villages and shrines to the ground. Now, a mysterious curse follows him. Eiley, an outcast whose entire family perished in the Wyrdness. She makes a modest living supplying healing herbs and roots to the locals. Maggot, a renegade of the Druidic Order whose innate powers are curbed by his destructive addiction to mixtures and mushrooms used by all druids. So he's going to give us the most magic, and I'll kind of explain what these do. Beor, local blacksmith known for short temper, incredible strength. He does his best to conceal a festering, unhealable wound in his side that he received under mysterious circumstances. So I can play any and as many of these 4 characters that I want. However, I'm going to only be playing a single one. Do I want to be great at combat? You can see where the red cubes are filled in. Or would I prefer to be a more balanced character, a more diplomatic character, or yet another more diplomatic character? I think I'm actually going to roll with Arev. No real reason for that other than I kind of like the diversity of his setup. So we start by placing on our cubes in their corresponding locations. So for Arev, we have 1 skill in aggression, 1 in courage, 1 in practicality, 1 in caution, and 1 in empathy, with none in spirituality. I also start with 2 food, a wealth, and a magic. I'm putting these cubes onto there, so I apologize, we're going to hear a little bit of crinkling sound as I do this. He also starts with 8 health and 6, excuse me. Action points. So I have played through the demo of this, which basically, or the tutorial, which plays through a kind of intro story with Beor. You can see how that board is setting up, and I'll show this off periodically, though it's mainly going to sit in front of me. We also have a couple of things. Arev can always, for 2 action points, spend 2 to get a food. So I should be able to deal with food. However, I'm cursed, so these Menhir are lighting up the area surrounding this. I will be able to place locations all around like this, but I still have more to do. Beyond that, I have to figure out what the goal for this first scenario is. Now that I've decided to use Arev, I could have also done her. Where did I put that over there? I have a few other things that I can look at. Oh, and I have my character. It's going to get placed right there. So, we have a save sheet that has a ton of different things on the back that we'll be keeping track of. I'm going to set that out over here. We have a map. This map gives us an idea. And, excuse me, we have a letter. And since I'm playing Arev, I picked the one at the top that says Arev. I will read that in a second here. Let's finish doing the setup for Arev. So, we are going to pull out our advancement pool. think I just pulled out more cards than I was supposed to there. So we kind of have this goldish color for our character. So these cards are basically going to be cards that we'll be able to add into our deck at some point in time that are character specific for Arev. We have some that are combat, some that are diplomacy. So place those there. Then we have a huge stack of more combat and diplomacy cards. And I'm looking for the ones that are going to match Arev's color. I really wish it was a little bit more defined. I know it is not these green ones. Blue, some blue. Oh, it's yellow. They have it at the bottom. It's like, I know there's some way I'm supposed to be able to tell this. It's because it's at the bottom. Uses Magic the Gathering style lettering. For those cards. Mainly because there's blue, green, and black. So lettering for black and blue, BL and BL, you don't have enough to distinguish which is which. Magic the Gathering has that same issue, so U is used for blue. Alright. So, now that we have our combat cards, we then get to pick the 15 basic and 15 diplomacy cards with a banner that matches your color. Shuffle these cards. Into their own specific decks. These are our starting decks for Arev. We are able to deck build in this, and when we get XP, we have the option to add in additional cards. We'll explain how that works when the time comes. I don't expect to get super far in this tonight. This has already been streaming for 14 minutes. Still pretty early on in setup, I feel like. So then we have our advancement decks. And we take the Arev specific cards plus the more advanced combat cards, shuffle them together. This will be the pool. We get to pull X number of cards from this when we want to use experience, and we can then spend experience to bring in these cards. I will set those across the top here. I apologize for this lighting. I really kind of block stuff at times. Need to work on the lighting in this room still. And so we've done that. We have this in place. Now we can read the letter. My friend, I know your secret. I realize you're no farmer, and that you settled here to run from something. I know how it feels to be haunted by your past deeds, to leave your old life behind. I also know a fighting man when I see one, and I believe that, should I fail, you are this town's best chance. Know that Avalon once belonged to twisted, immortal powers. It was not the place for humans. Arthur, the once and future king, subdued this realm inch by inch. He took the Grail from the Four Dwellers and used it to bring the laws of our world to this godless place. People of the village believe their Menhir was raised to immortalize this. The truth is, it was created to keep these ancient powers out, to anchor Avalon to the world of mankind. Now the Menhirs go dark. The laws of nature unravel one by one. Lord Yavin secretly gathered 5 people, including me, and he leads us east to seek Camelot. I wanted to take you with us, but the others feared that misfortune seems to follow your footsteps. But if we don't return, it means our luck wasn't any better. Should the worst come to pass, I implore you, take up your arms once again and save our people. There. Master Huntsman of Caunnacht. So, there we have it. We have the letter that is going to kick us off into this game, though there will be a little bit more setup. Let me roll back here, and I'm trying to remember if there's introductory text. Yes. I have some introductory text from the rulebook as well. This island was never meant for humans. Looming on the borders between our reality and the ancient power known as the Wyrdness, it was populated by a mysterious, legendary race. Humans came here with their wooden ships and their ambitious king and his fellow knights. Running from the plague ravaging their homeland, they took the island piece by piece, raising menhirs of forbidding shape and mysterious purpose. The former masters of the island faded into legend. 400 years later, not even their name remains. The people of Avalon call them Four Dwellers. Times are harsh. The Red Death is back. The Menhirs are dying, and without their power, the land itself crumbles back into the Wyrdness. That is why your hometown has gathered 5 of its strongest and wisest heroes and sent them off to find help in distant Camelot. As these champions set out to brave the dangers of the wildland, you watch from afar. You are not one of them. So, we are playing just a guy. We have, let me go through the world setup quick. We have this map in place, Menhir in place, encounter cards, check, secrets, items, save sheet, help cards, no chronicler, set up the first chapter. Chapter 1, setup. Prepare the event deck. Find all parts of the Chapter 1 all parts of Chapter 1 and stack them from 6 bottom to 1 top. Event deck. I actually have already flipped the order so that I can simply pull the 6 off the top. No clue what they say. Do not want to know what they say. Hint. Always take care when building the event deck and double check that it is stacked correctly, part 1 on top and the rest in ascending order. Hint. Some event cards will modify the event deck, for example, by adding random event cards to the top. Additionally, the exploration journal sometimes asks you to resolve a specific part of the chapter. In such a case, take the specific card from the deck and resolve it without altering the rest of the pile. Now follow the instructions on the back of the card. Build your 4 encounter decks: gray, green, purple, and blue. So we're going to take, starting with green, we are looking for every single one that has a single thank you for not focusing. Single little tick at the top. Shuffle these deck, and it says take the matching your first encounter card and place it on the top of the deck. Gray. So these, your first encounter cards, are meant to kind of help ease you in as you play. I know that the green encounters are most apt to give you food. Believe I can look this up too, but I believe it's the blue that you really don't know precisely what that's going to give you. I also have less cards in the blue encounter deck. I'm trying not to look at these, though that is not a requirement for the game. That's just me making it a little bit tougher. And so there's a question that just popped in. Ralph Wiggum 117. This is Tainted Grail. It is a Arthurian legend, kind of a dark Arthurian legend sort of game, and a big storybook style game where you explore different locations. You are trying to survive, very much a grim, dark sort of fantasy world. So not Game of Thrones, but definitely has a little bit of the flavor of kind of that more grim style of fantasy. So then we have this in place. Now ready to start Chapter 1. As the first action of the game, try exploring your starting location. Remember to read the instructions or introduction of the exploration journal before you explore the first time. Discard this card now and reveal the top card of the event deck. Don't know if a Green Knight shows up. First time running through this, I've done the introductory scenario just to kind of get a feel of the game, but it's 15 different chapters for this game, starting right now with Chapter 1. Place this card on top of the active quest pile. The time is short. The guardian Menhir that has been protecting your town since the ancient days is about to go dark. Rumor has it that there's a secret druidic ritual that may help you rekindle the Menhirs. You must explore the surrounding area of Caunnacht and find it. Quest. Earn a Menhir Rite secret card. To do this, you will have to explore the locations surrounding the central location I'm on. Success: as soon as you have Menhir Rites, resolve Chapter 1, Part 5 card from the event deck and discard this card. Remember not to change the order of the rest of the cards. Hint: if this is your first game, try returning to Caunnacht at the end of the day and spend the night there and read the dream. Dreams often contain hints. So we'll set this aside up here. I believe the only thing I have left is to shuffle the random event deck, so the random event deck is actually random. Ideally shuffling good weather, I know because one of the cards I know is in there, to the top. And we'll set that aside up here. So, the recommendation for us was kind of to spend an action to explore. You can also spend an action point here at Caunnacht Farmhold to, once a day, gain a reputation. We have a little bit of flavor text as well. Its history as vast as its graveyard, its future as empty as its houses. So, I think I actually am going to spend one point of energy right now to gain a reputation. I don't necessarily know that I want to leave Caunnacht right now, but then let's go explore. Exploration takes another energy. A deep feeling of loss fills everything in Caunnacht. From dilapidated farms to sunken eyes of those who remain in the town. The Menhir, the marker, is all but extinguished, and everyone brave or resourceful enough has left to find a solution. If you have Winds of Wyrdness status, I do not. If you have 66, I do not. If I have Hunter's Mark status, I do not. Otherwise, we are going to section 101 of the journal, exploration journal. So it tells us to read the introductory part before this right now. I'm going to do this out loud. Probably. So there are certain things such as every location in Tainted Grail has a corresponding section of this journal. So, for example, 162. Each exploration journal is sorted according to the location number or the location numbers located on the edge of each page of the journal, as well as the location card. If the location card contains a dream seal or a Menhir seal next to its name, its journal will contain a respective section. they're always last. So we have choices that may show up in some of the verses. We have some automatic redirections, depending on if we have certain status effects. We have to roll at various points in time. When in a party, I always use the highest attribute available among party members. Do not add attributes together. So, if it was courage, and Eiley had 3, and Beor had 2, you would roll and add the highest number to it. So, Eiley's versus Beor's. There are secrets to be decoded. There are rewards and payments. When exploring, players often gain resources, lose resources, or pay with resources. Each time a reward scales with the number of players, it is clearly indicated. Most rewards are non-scalable. Exploring alone is more dangerous, but at least you don't have to share the loot. Example, a party of 3 solves a quest and receives a reward of 1 wealth and 1 item. Each member would gain an experience. Each party member gains an experience. This means that the party first receives 1 wealth resource and 1 item card to share. Then each character gains an experience point. Players should always try and share loot in a way that's fair and maximizes its potential. Please note there's an important difference between pay and lose. If a character doesn't have enough resources to cover a required payment, they cannot pick it as an option because it is a pain. However, if a choice causes them to lose, a character may always select it. The loss simply subtracts a certain number of their current resources, even if it is insufficient or equals 0. Encounters, and then exploration ends. Player notes. We recommend you take notes, either on the save sheet, adventurer's notebook. Sometimes you won't be able to progress through certain interactions because of insufficient resource attributes. Write down the location's number and the required condition that you would want to come back and meet with. And here we are. Caunnacht Farmhold. A deep feeling of sadness. Okay, it's the same thing as before. We again don't have 66. The Winds of Wyrdness status or Hunter's Mark status. So otherwise choose one. Visit the families of the champions from the first expedition. If you're to find them, knowing more will help. Ask the townsfolk to help you prepare. Rest for the day in your home. Wander the alleys twisted by the Wyrdness, only if the Menhir model is not at the location. Or leave. Exploration ends. I'm going to talk to the families. This long winter, nearly everyone has lost a friend or a family member. First to hunger, then disease, finally the 5 remaining pillars of the community. The only heroes this land had ever known suddenly left. Now, when you look into the distant eyes of the remaining residents, you realize they want to forget. Loosen their tongues with mead. There's an old custom, a late night wake for those who have wandered far from home. Holding it for everyone who left with the expedition won't be cheap though. Ask them to share their burdens. Good, 2. And that requires that I have at least 1 empathy. Or leave. Well, I'm going to go with ask them to share their burdens. I have the ability to just simply do that without paying anything, so that is most definitely a better option for me. And I'm going to need the save sheet to keep track of some of that. It takes a while to break the silence of the grief-stricken people. But when you do, the stories of separations and departures flood you like torrential rain. You try to remember every detail. The color of the palfrey horse, the color of the palfrey horse, the village priestess, Nate, rode. The ornament on the hauberk the young Lord Yvain wore. The strange drinking horn, Aphir the smith used to lug around. The birthmark of Fail, the master hunter. The embroidered cape of Aubert, the seasoned traveler who'd seen all parts of this island. Who knows the details and can help you on the road. Gain Part 1 of Fate of the Expedition status. Exploration ends. So we've used 2 of the energy, and I could certainly go again, and I'm going to actually, I think, explore again. I might not even use my 4th energy today, simply because maybe I'll rest. We'll see what that does. But we're going to spend another energy and explore. The statuses are the same for what I can do. So I could repeat what I did before, but that doesn't make sense. I could ask the town folk to help me prepare, or I could rest. I'm going to ask the town folk to help me prepare. Though they have little left, they share with you their last remaining supplies. Somehow, this seems unworthy of a hero. But since all true heroes were lost, who will dare question your methods? If you have at least 1 reputation and don't have the scrounger status, each party member gains 2 food and a random item. I'm fine with this. I like to have as much food as possible right now. And then we have an item. And let's look to make sure there's no specific information in here for items. Items 8 and 12. So it sounds like I just pull a single item off the top of the item deck. Arcane Staff. This is not that useful for Arev. It'd be great if I was Maggot. Gain 1 hit each time you connect a combat or a magic key in combat. And finally, I gain a status of Scrounger. That might not have been the best idea just for that reason, but we'll see. So, now I'm going to actually spend 1 more energy. This will be the last thing I do today. And I'm going to do the last exploration in town. Many would refuse to call this place home, but the familiar setting brings you some needed serenity. As you lay to rest in your bed, You can't help but wonder whether it is the last night you will ever spend under this roof. If there's a Menhir active, every party member gains 2 health and loses 2 sanity. Basically, this is what allowing me to pass for the rest of the day and gain some stuff back if I want. However, that was the last thing there, and we have a Menhir symbol. We have, I forget what the green symbol is on these cards. It's friendly settlement, and it has a dream. So we're now at night. End of day. I have to spend a food. I restore my action points to full. I did not get any XP. I do not modify my dex. There's a dream. In your restless dream, a pale lady rises from the water. Her eyes milky and skin spoiled with rot. She whispers something in your ear. Her breath smells like sea salt, kelp, and rotten fish. You barely remember the words. There was something about 3 enigmas, one hidden under the Isle of the Dead, one clutched in the grasp of burned hands and arms, and one buried in a mist-covered mound. What could it mean? Hint: the dream refers to 3 of the 8 locations surrounding Caunnacht. It is possible some of them are not yet revealed. So we're at 42 minutes right now. I want to see if we can get through some another day. Start of the day, we reduce the time token of the Menhir by 1. We now have 7 days left before this goes out. Reveal the next event card. Homeless vagabonds roam the roads and trails. Many hail from fishing villages further west, where the last Menhirs went dark weeks ago. Though malformed and sick, they're the lucky ones. Their tales chill you to the bone. Is this the fate that awaits your land? Help the refugee. Each player pays a wealth and food, gain a reputation and experience. Place 5, -1, so 4 random events on top of the event deck. I am going to pay the wealth and food for the reputation and experience bumps, mainly because I have the additional food. Well, one of the clues was something about magic, or not magic, but burned. So I feel like that's most likely going to be at the Charred Conclave. I spend an action and move. There is a lightning bolt, so I draw the top card from this deck. And we have our first combat. We have a mist-shaped vermin. Alright, let's pull out the combat overview. Alright, so we draw 3 combat cards. And combat actually chains in a really fascinating manner. I'm going to set this here, and we'll work across. So with these three, I now pick a character, me, to start. There are no delayed abilities at this point. I can technically bring the Ancient Staff with me into combat. So I'm going to do that, or Arcane Staff. I don't plan on using it because I only have a single magic and I'm cursed, so that I require an additional magic for letting a Menhir. So even if it doesn't require any magic, I still have to pay an additional one. So then I look, and I can always play a card for free. I'm going to play this one. That gives me 1, 2. And I apologize. Put here a bag quick. 2 hits on him. And then if I want, I can play an additional card. However, if I get up to 3 damage, since it takes 4 damage to kill, it will trigger the effect where it loses 1 of the damage on it. Instead, I'm going to stay at 2. It responds to me. It performs an attack. It damages me by 1. What that does is it reduces my max health, but it also makes me closer to panicking. So if my terror ever passes my health level, I start to panic, and it lowers the cap on how many actions I can take. So we're down, or that's the end of that. Check the readiness. Only I'm here. So I would discard down to 3 cards, then I draw a single combat card, and I continue. Don't really want to use that one. I'm going to use this one, Readiness. No, I'm going to use this one, Find Weakness. So, normally you have to connect something, but I can connect down here, which allows me to draw a card. And I place a time marker on this. However, when the enemy activates, I'm going to take 2 damage. Lovely. Time marker. I can now play an additional card if I so desired. However, I don't actually have anything that I want to play right now. So, I come to the end of my turn, still at 2, so I take a damage, I draw a card, this comes off because the time unit has passed, I draw an additional card, and I got what I wanted. I can play this one. It's only connecting at the bottom, but it gives me an additional 3 hits, which kills the misshaped vermin, and I'm going to place that at the bottom of the deck. Killing it gives me loot of a food. So I took a few damage. These cards get discarded by the combat pile, and what I was really doing there was kind of fishing for a way to finish off that vermin. Losing cubes on him would not be ideal. I guess maybe I should have gone up 1 more had I had the chance instead of going out for the kill. because it would simply remove the cube instead of damaging me as much. I didn't actually think of that as a strategy. So I have spent one time unit. That combat was not a time unit because it automatically happened. And we have the winds that the wind that caresses the long grass of this desolate highland also carries the smell of burned flesh. Oh, and since I'm here, we actually get 2 additional things. First, we get whitening. It is an unfriendly towards a settlement with a Menhir that is out. And we get 109, Island Asylum. For an action, you can pay a wealth and heal 3. Of course, I don't currently have a wealth, but we're starting to build this up. And you can see kind of how the map is going to continue to grow. I'm sure at certain points in time I'm going to have to adjust, slide this, reposition it, and I'll have to get up and move cameras and stuff like that over time as well. So I spent 1 action. I'm going to spend another one to explore this location, 104. It doesn't take long to find it. You just have to follow your nose. The remnants of an enormous wicker man kneel at the bottom of a small vale. You were here when it was set alight, years ago. The day was wet. The wicker man smoldered but didn't burn. Its victims, dozens of tightly packed druids, are still inside. Their melted faces and charred beards pressed against the bars. And looking towards the gray, silent skies, barely audible, ceaseless whispers seem to fill the air. If we're playing Maggot, we would go to a specific location, but we are not, so now we are looking for card 104. I can stay a while and listen, dig through the remains, or leave while your sanity is intact. I'm going to stay a while and listen. It seems like the best option. You stand there for... I also really don't want to dig through remains. You stand there for a while, pondering whether this massacre was justified. The druids were blamed for the return of the Red Death, but without them, the plague kept on, while the Menhirs weakened. The whispers of the wind become louder with every minute. There's still some form of life left in the burnt-out husks. You wonder what knowledge or madness it can bestow. Learn from the conclave, spend the energy, go to verse 10, or quit the exploration. I'm going to spend the energy and go to verse 10. The lipless mouths sneer at you. The melted fingers seem to beckon and call you. An angry whisper grows like the sound of the sea. Finally, you realize they want you to come inside. To step behind the charred bars, where their black arms and melted fingers may close around you, into a place where your life should have ended with theirs. Go inside requires Maggot or 1 spirituality. I do not have the spirituality. Otherwise, I can put my ears to the bar and gather what you can from here. Go to verse 5. After a while, you learn to distinguish singular voices in the maddening cacophony of whispers. Several threaten you or throw curses for what your kin have done to the druids. Some cry out in agonizing pain. One describes a secret invocation and a forgotten ritual. If you have at least 3 magic, go to 7. Verse 7. I don't, so I continue. Each party member gains 1 magic. That's good. And if you have at least 1 empathy, you gain terror. And then exploration ends. I was hoping to get something more out of that because it seems like I need 3 magic, and I could do it again. I could sit there, listen again. I'm not sure that's in the spirit of the game, which is the same thing twice, so I'm not going to. But this is not a settlement location, so for my last energy, I'd be 2 energy. I'm not going to become exhausted to get another food. I should have, before I left Caunnacht, I should have spent 1 energy to gain a reputation by helping around town. So, there's not much that I can do here right now. I think I want to go to Island Asylum next anyways. There's no event that automatically triggers, so I'm going to go there for my final action, and then we hit night. There is a dream there, but first I pay my food, and then I go to the dream at location 109. And after this, I will wrap up for tonight. Dream and nightmare. There are no realms, or there are no dreams in this place. The sleep is cold and silent as the rocks of the island. Considering how much pain and death they've seen, perhaps that's a blessing. So, that is the first taste of Tainted Grail. Now, there was obviously a whole bunch of setup that I did to get this going. I'm going to try and leave this as set up as possible. I hope my normal cover fits over everything well here, so that I can start up again much faster. They do give you a nice save system as well, but you can't really see it. You can kind of see it, just hints of cards everywhere around here. It's going to take a lot of work to redo that every time. So, I will be back for sure 2 weeks from now for some more playing of this, but most likely, since I'm really digging this thus far, I like the kind of story that it's telling, I will be back sooner than that. I would probably think soonest would be next Thursday. So, I will see you next time. Bottoms up.